Hey guys, thanks for joining us today at Family Shenanigans, Arts, Crafts, and Builds. We are so excited today. We are working on a fall knitted pumpkin wreath, and we like to change things up for the month of November. So after Halloween, we're going to be putting this one out. So we have a couple weeks before we put it out, but we wanted to go ahead and get it done. And we hope you enjoy this video as much as we enjoy making it for you guys. And if you do, please think about giving us a like, a share. Hit that subscribe button and let us know what you think in the comments because we'd love to hear from you guys. Okay, so we are just kind of using what we already have on hand. We have a lot of different fall colors on hand. And so I'm not quite sure what this orange one is. I believe it's Big Twist yarn. We don't get to our nearest Joann's. I believe that's their brand. It's a little far away, so we don't always get there. But I believe it was the orange. I don't believe it was the varsity orange, but any pretty colored orange. It was just a basic acrylic yarn. Would work just as well. And then for the Super Saver yellow here, it is lemon, and it's just the basic acrylic yarn again. Let's see, size 4, medium weight. And then my daughter thought the yellow kind of needed a little bit of a different stem color than the one we used for the orange and this one over here. So we got this one is a Desert Dust, and we really like how the color is coming out with the Desert Dust with the yellow. And then we have this one here that we've used in our previous pumpkin videos, the Light Peach, and it's just this I Love This yarn, and it's also I believe a size, yep, medium for 100% acrylic. And then for the stems for the orange and the Light Peach, we use this I Love This yarn, and it is just the basic brown. And again, it's the medium for 100% acrylic. So those are the yarns that we're going to be using today, and we're going to show you how we made them and how we're putting it all together. Okay, so today we are using the 22 key machine. We're just following the same kind of pattern that we used when we made our small pumpkins, when we were deciding kind of how we wanted to do our pumpkin wreath and playing around the small pumpkin sides that we had done before, that we made the video for like the name tags, seemed to be the perfect size for what we wanted. And so I just want to mention that for the pumpkins for the wreath, we did change up the pattern a little bit, and that we changed the stem and its design. Since we weren't going to be attaching name tags, we wanted a little bit more of a solid one, and that way also we could use the darker, richer colors and you could see them from far away. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and cast on to our 22 key machine. And the first thing you want to do is make sure your yarn goes around the first black key there. And then it should always go in the front there. And then we go behind the second one, and then in front of the third one. And then we go behind and then in front. And then we just continue that pattern all the way around, just weaving behind and then front, behind and front. And then the only thing is when you get to the last key, it should always go behind. So if you get to the last key and for some reason it's in front, that's a good way to like check and know, uh-oh, I made a mistake. I need to go back and make sure I didn't mess up in the weaving pattern. It doesn't happen too often, but every once in a while it can happen. And then we're going to just go ahead and click this yarn into place. And then we'll be going 34 rows today. So we're going to be doing 34 rows. And if you want, a lot of times we double our pattern, but since there was so many mini pumpkins to make, we did not decide to double them. So it's kind of just if you have the time to put a little extra effort. We're a little busy over here, and we kind of like the way they are even without the doubling. So, but if you wanted to have a little bit more pop and a little bit more vibrance, then we might recommend the doubling. Okay, now that we've gone 34 rows, we're just going to go ahead and cast on, and all we're going to do is take our needle here and pull the yarn through, and we just kind of catch it on each key here and just pull it through the yarn. It's a pretty simple process. The only thing you have to do is look out for, you don't want to drop the stitches, so I usually work in sections. You just kind of turn the wheel a little bit, and then we go to the next section and then pick it up. But it's not too difficult. If you catch that you're dropping a stitch right at the beginning, you can kind of quickly, save the work. But if you don't notice it and it drops, it's a little bit extra work to get it fixed. But we're going to just continue to work on around, and then we'll meet you back in a few minutes. And I don't know if you hear our little friends in the background. Here's a little picture or video of our friend. He likes to make a lot of noise. We cannot figure out if he is a raven or a crow because no one in our family quite agrees on it. But we love these little guys, and he likes to grab peanuts for his friend as well. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and start sewing it together. And we're going to go ahead and close this one side. And when we're only doing one swath, I like to go ahead and sew a few stitches around the top. And all you do is you pick up some of the rows there with the needle and the yarn, and you pull it through. And then you grab some more from the other side, grab some more of these rows, and take our needle and pull it through. And then we continue to work all the way around until it's nice and tight. And then once it's nice and tight, you can either knot it there on the outside, or I like to sometimes hide my knots inside the work. And so I'm just going to go around into the center here and add a few knots on the inside. But one thing is, when I'm working, every once in a while I might run out of a little bit of yarn when I'm adding the loops to the pumpkin to give it the shape. So I'm still going to keep this yarn after I make these knots here. I'm just going to move it back to the other side just in case I need it later. And sometimes also the second string helps with knotting it all together with the finished work. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start stuffing our little pumpkin swath here. And we're just using a basic fiber fill, and I like to give it a little fluff before I add it in. And since we're using only one swath today, we're just going to be careful that we don't stuff it too full. When you do the two swaths, you don't have to quite worry about that. You don't have to worry about the fiber fill spilling out or kind of taking away from the color. It's a little nicer when there's the two, but since we had so many pumpkins to make for the wreath, and it still looks good with the one, we're just going to go ahead and just do the one here. But we're just going to make sure that it's full, but it's not too full. It's a little bit loose on the top so that when we bind it all down together, it should be perfect. And I just want to go ahead and mention now, we made 5 yellows all together. And then for this light peach one, we are doing 5. And then my daughter kind of wanted more of the orange color, so we're going to do 6 of the orange color pumpkins. So all together, we ended up with 16 pumpkins. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and close up this top part here. And since it's only one swath that we're doing, I like to go ahead and do the same thing that we did on the bottom, which is to go ahead and sew a few stitches around the top to make it a little tighter and close it up. And so I'm just going to grab a few rows to put on my needle here, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull it through. And then I'm just going to continue to work until it's nice and tight, grabbing a few rows at a time, making sure that all the yarn is tucked in and correct. I'm just going to grab a few more here and pull it through. And then once I feel like it's nice and tight and closed, I'm going to go ahead and start making my creases in the pumpkin. And I'm going around the back here, and then I go up through the front. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull this needle through, and I'm just going to make sure that this thread here aligns with a row before I pull it tight, because it makes it a little bit nicer, a little smoother. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this side over here so that I end up with two halves. So this is I'm going on the opposite side all the way through the back to the front. And then I'm going to find this front and then pull it through. So basically I'm going to end up with two halves. And now I'm just going to pull that nice and tight. So I have my two halves here, and now I'm going to go between one of the halves here right in the center, and I'm going to take it all the way to the back, and then I'm going to go back up through the center area. And then I'm going to pull that nice and tight as well. So I have 1, 2 on this side, and now I'm going to flip it over to the other half, and I'm going to find the center, and I'm going to go all the way to the back again. I'm going to put my needle through the back and then come up through the center. And then I'm going to pull that all the way through, pull my yarn all the way through. And then if you see that the yarn is not completely aligned with a row, now is a good time to adjust it, because it has a smoother line if you can follow the row with the yarn. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 all together. And now we're going in between the quarters here to make 2/8. And so we're going to go up, we're going to take it to the back here, and we're going to go up again through the center. And then I'm going to pull that through all the way, and then kind of pull it nice and tight. And now I'm going to have 2/8 there now. So now I'm going to go over to this quarter over here, and I'm going to make another 2/8, going up through the back, and then pulling my needle through, and then pulling that down. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4/8 done. So that side's done. Now I'm going to come over here to this other side, and I'm going to find this quarter here, and I'm just going to go in the middle there, going up in the back, all the way to the front, and pulling that nice and tight as well. And my last quarter here, I have those 2/8 done. This is my last quarter. I'm going to go ahead in the middle here. I'm going to put the needle through the back, and then I'm going to pull the needle all the way through, and now I have 8/8 or one whole pumpkin all together. And I'm going to go ahead and move my string to the back here. And I like to just finish off with some knots. And I like to use both of the strings to make a finished knot, because I feel like it secures the pumpkin a little bit better. So I'm just going to do this one here, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a second one here. Oh, I guess I caught the needle there. Forgot to take it off. Let me take that off. All right, and now we're going to do this second knot here. I'm going to pull that nice and tight, and then I'm going to just trim this up a bit so it's easier to thread the needle. And then I like to finish off with tucking the work back into the pumpkin. It hides the string, and then I'm going to cut that. And then now we are done with the pumpkin. We're going to go ahead and work on the stem. Okay, so now we're just going to be chaining today. It's pretty simple. We're just going to be using this brown yarn, and I like to make a loop right here on my finger, and then I tuck the string through the loop, and it kind of makes a new little loop there. It's kind of like a knotted loop. And then I'm using this crochet hook. It's a size 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. And I'm just going to begin chaining on. It's going to be 5 chains all together. So this is 1 chain, 2 chains, 3 chains. And then I just want to say that when I'm chaining, these are kind of tight. So if you go a little bit looser, it's going to make a little bit of a larger stem. And if you keep it tight, it's kind of the size that we used when we made ours. Because when I went loose, it got a little big. And then I'm going to go ahead now and chain the 4th and then the 5th one here. And then we're going to be doing single crochets back through, but I'm going to skip that one there. And I'm going to put my crochet hook through and I'm going to yarn over. And then not sure if you saw that or not. I just want to make sure that you saw I was going in the second one from the hook there, and I'm going to pull the yarn through. Now I have 2 loops, 1, 2. I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through. And that's 1 single crochet, and we're going to be doing 4. So I'm going to follow the next chain here. I'm going to go through, yarn over, and I'm going to pull it through, and I have 2, and I'm going to yarn through those 2 there. And then I'm going to do the 3rd one here the same way. And then the last one here, the 4th one here, I'm going to yarn over, pull through. And then I'm going to finish off by pulling it all the way through. And you can see the loop here is through, but I want to continue that through, so I'm going to cut the string here, and then now it just goes all the way through, so it's nice and secure. And that's our little stem here, and we're going to show you how to put it on. Now that we have our little stem here, we're only using, there's 2 strings, but we're only going to use 1. So I've only threaded 1 side of the needle. And I'm just looking for the center here. I'm looking for some center stitches here. And I just have a few with the needle, a few center stitches. And then I'm just going to pull it all the way through. So I have 2 strings here. And then this is really simple. We just finish off with a knot. So we just knot both sides together. And I usually do about 2. So that's 1. And now we have 2. Okay, and I think I'm just going to do 1 more knot. So we'll have 3 knots all together. So it's nice and secure. And I'm going to go ahead and thread both strings onto my needle, because what I want to do is I want to tuck these strings in through the pumpkin, so we hide them. And then just going to pull it through here. And once I get that through, I'm just going to go ahead and cut off that string. And now we are finished with our pumpkin. We're going to go ahead and start moving on to the wreath. Okay, so we're going to be using Dollar Tree frames again today. And this is the 18-inch, the really large one that we're using. And then we've got this little tiny, it usually comes in a 2-pack, 8-inch one that we're going to be using. We have kind of a new idea that we're trying out, so we're kind of excited, and we're going to go ahead and get started on it. We always like to begin with the decorative mesh first, so we just picked these up at the local Dollar Tree. These are kind of the colors that we were thinking for the outside to represent fall. We have a green one here, and we have some orange over here, and then we have this yellow. We have one kind of already open, but I think we'll have enough. We usually do 2, but with the 18-inch wreath, I think we're going to need more like 3. So either way, we'll have enough, hopefully, and we'll see how much it takes. So we want to leave a space for the pumpkins. So we're not going to be working on those first 2. We're just going to be working on the outer one there. And we like to use zip ties. So we're just going to go ahead and zip tie on our decorative mesh to start with. And then I like to trim as I go along. So I actually don't like going back and doing all the trimming up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this all and trim it as I go. And that's gonna be our first latch there. And then I'm just gonna get the ruler out, and we usually go about 8 inches. So I'm gonna measure out 8 inches, and then I'm gonna bunch it up together, and then I'm going to get my zip tie and bring it close to the other zip tie, and then I'm going to zip tie it into place. And once I get that secured with the zip tie, I'm going to go ahead and cut that, trim that short. And then I'm going to get the ruler again, and I'm going to measure out another 8 inches. And you can do this by sight. Sometimes you can just, doesn't have to be perfect, but if you like to have it specifically closer to exactly the same size, it's good to have the ruler on hand. And then this is our second loop here, and we just try to bring it up as close as we can to the other zip tie, and then we're going to zip tie this loop into place. And that's just pretty much how we do it. So we finished a few loops. I just want to say that it took us about 5 loops. We did 5 loops. So in here, there's like a metal divider. This 18-inch frame is separated by these metal dividers. And what we did was we just kept looping around, and we did about 5 within one section. So we just want there to be consistency all the way around. So we are just going to continue that same pattern in each section. So each section will have 5 loops. So that's what we're aiming for all the way around. And so I believe altogether there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections. So that would be a total of 40 loops altogether. So that's what we're going to be shooting for. It's really starting to come together now, and we are really enjoying the colors. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. We're all finished with the decorative mesh, and we're really excited about how it's coming together. And we're kind of excited to try out our method of putting the 2 wreaths together and seeing what it looks like. So what do you guys think? Are we crazy for doing this? Let us know in the comments. So we have kind of positioned the center frame about 3 inches from the sides, trying to make it as even as possible. And we had to kind of use all hands on deck for this one because the filming and also to do the zip ties, and we wanted to kind of stay in place. So I'm gonna hold it down, and the kids are just going to work. We just to mention, these are HVAC zip ties. They are big and thick, and we wanted it to be nice and sturdy, so we went with these larger HVAC zip ties. And so the kids are just kind of working it down while I tried to hold it in place. So excited. We're so excited. And I will mention too that these larger HVAC zip ties, they take a little muscle to do it, but I think we got it. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to wait to cut them until we do both sides. And then it does slide a little bit, but I'm just going to work it and move it back into position. And now we are going to go ahead and work on the other side. And we're just going to do the same thing. It's about 3 inches apart. And we're just going to zip it down. We're getting a little more used to it, so it's going a little faster. And now these things are kind of hard to cut through, so I have these really thick pliers here, and I'm just going to be going around trimming it up, and then we'll move on to the next step. So we've kind of laid out our machine knit pumpkins, and we're really excited about how it's coming together. And we kind of recommend this step. That way you can kind of see exactly where you want the pumpkins. We are going to be using zip ties today to do it. The hot glue is a little bit harder to work with when you have the metal frame. So we kind of don't want all that heat right now. So we're just going to be zip tying these down. So we kind of recommend taking a picture of like placing them all down, seeing how you like them, and then taking a picture for a reference, because if you move them around while you're zip tying them, you might not remember the place. So, and now we're just going to go ahead and zip tie these down. It's a little bit hard to do with the camera, so I hope you guys are able to see as we're doing this. We're just going to go ahead and find this one point on the knit pumpkin and the wire frame, and then we're just using the zip tie to zip it in place. I'm going to tie that down until it's nice and sturdy, but the other side would lift up. So I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. See how on this side it's all bouncy? So if we were to hang it, it would be a little too bouncy. So we're going to have to put a second zip tie on the other side to make sure that it's secured into place. And so we're just going to go again through the knitted pumpkin. It's pretty easy to get it through. It's a little hard to do with the camera going, but it's a lot more easier to do when you're not trying to record it. And then we're just going to go to the other side. And excuse my hand, it's kind of getting in the way. I'm trying to stay out of it, but it's a little hard to do with the camera. And then we're just going to go ahead and pull that through. And then now you have a secure pumpkin. And then we're just going to keep doing that process all the way around. We finished securing all of our pumpkins, and the only one we didn't do was the center one here, and we have the hot glue gun going so that we can just use the hot glue on the center one when we're finished. And we've begun to add some floral to kind of fill in the holes that are kind of left there, and also to give it a little fall floral color. And we're just going to continue to work, and we'll meet you back when we're done. I'll finish with our wreath, and we are so happy with how it turned out, and we hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a like, a share, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We always enjoy hearing from you guys, and we hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed making it.